You wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, palms sweating, feeling like something terrible is about to happen, but you can't figure out what. You've tried everything: therapy, meditation, exercise, cutting out caffeine, sleeping better, eating healthier. Yet that persistent feeling of dread, that constant state of alertness, that exhausting cycle of worry just won't leave you alone. You start to wonder if this is just how you are now, if anxiety has become your permanent companion, and if you'll ever feel normal again. What if I told you that the reason your anxiety feels so stubborn, so resistant to all your efforts, isn't because you're broken or weak or doing something wrong? What if the real culprit behind your persistent anxiety is something you've probably never heard of, something that's been hiding in plain sight, controlling your body's responses without you even knowing it exists? Meet your vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in your body, stretching from your brainstem all the way down to your abdomen, connecting your brain to virtually every major organ along the way. This remarkable nerve, whose name literally means wandering in Latin, is like the conductor of your body's orchestra, coordinating the symphony of your internal systems. And when it's not functioning properly, it doesn't just affect one instrument, it throws the entire performance into chaos. The vagus nerve is the main component of your parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest system. It's supposed to be your body's built-in calm button, the biological mechanism that tells your system when it's safe to relax, to heal, to feel at peace. But here's what most people don't realize. In our modern world, millions of us are walking around with a damaged, suppressed, or severely underactive vagus nerve. And this dysfunction is the hidden driver behind chronic anxiety, panic attacks, and that constant feeling of being on edge. Think about it this way. Your nervous system has two main modes: sympathetic, which is your fight or flight response, and parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest response. These two systems are supposed to work together like a perfectly balanced seesaw. When you encounter a real threat, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, flooding your body with stress hormones, increasing your heart rate, sharpening your focus, and preparing you for action. Once the threat passes, your parasympathetic nervous system, led by the vagus nerve, is supposed to activate, bringing your body back to baseline, telling your system that it's safe to relax. But what happens when that seesaw gets stuck? What happens when your fight or flight system is constantly activated and your vagus nerve isn't strong enough to bring you back down? You end up trapped in a state of chronic sympathetic activation where your body thinks it's constantly under threat. Even when you're sitting safely in your own living room, trying to watch Netflix. This is exactly what's happening to millions of people right now. They're living with what researchers call vagal dysfunction, or low vagal tone, and it's creating a perfect storm for anxiety disorders, panic attacks, digestive issues, sleep problems, and a host of other health complications that seem completely unrelated, but are actually all connected through this one crucial nerve. The vagus nerve doesn't just control your ability to feel calm. It's intimately connected to your gut health, your immune system, your heart rate variability, your ability to socialize and connect with others, and even your capacity for emotional regulation. When it's functioning properly, it acts like a biological brake pedal, constantly monitoring your internal state and external environment, making micro adjustments to keep you in a state of balanced alertness rather than constant panic. But here's where the story gets really interesting and really concerning. The way we live in modern society, the chronic stress, the constant stimulation, the poor sleep, the processed foods, the lack of deep human connection, the endless scrolling on our phones, all of these factors are systematically weakening our vagus nerve function. We're essentially training our nervous systems to stay stuck in fight or flight mode, and then wondering why we feel anxious all the time. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in real life. Sarah, a 32-year-old marketing manager, started experiencing anxiety attacks about 3 years ago. They began as occasional episodes during particularly stressful work periods, but gradually became more frequent and intense. She tried everything her doctor suggested: anti-anxiety, medication, therapy, stress management techniques. Some things helped temporarily, but the underlying anxiety always came back, often worse than before. What Sarah didn't know was that her anxiety wasn't just a psychological problem. It was a physiological one. Years of chronic work stress, combined with poor sleep habits, a diet heavy in processed foods, and minimal physical activity, had gradually suppressed her vagus nerve function. Her body had learned to interpret normal daily stressors as major threats, and without a properly functioning vagus nerve to apply the brakes, her nervous system was stuck in a constant state of hypervigilance. The symptoms Sarah experienced: the racing heart, the shallow breathing, the digestive issues, the insomnia, the constant feeling of impending doom, weren't separate problems requiring separate solutions. They were all manifestations of the same underlying issue: a nervous system that had lost its ability to self-regulate, controlled by a vagus nerve that was essentially offline. This is the hidden epidemic that nobody's talking about. We're treating anxiety as if it's purely a mental health issue, when in many cases, it's actually a nervous system dysfunction with a clear physiological basis. We're prescribing medications that mask the symptoms without addressing the root cause, sending people to therapy to talk through problems that might be more effectively solved through nervous system rehabilitation. Now, before you start thinking that this means anxiety isn't real, or that it's all in your body, let me be clear. Anxiety is absolutely real, and the psychological components are crucial. But what we're discovering is that the mind and body are far more interconnected than we previously understood. Your thoughts can affect your vagus nerve function, and your vagus nerve function can dramatically influence your thoughts and emotions. It's not either or. It's both and. The vagus nerve communicates in both directions. It sends information from your brain to your organs, but it also sends a tremendous amount of information from your organs back to your brain. In fact, about 80% of the communication along the vagus nerve travels from the body to the brain, not the other way around. This means that the state of your body, your gut health, your breathing patterns, your heart rate variability is constantly influencing your mental and emotional state. Through vagal communication, here's where it gets really fascinating. The vagus nerve has the ability to detect inflammation in your body and communicate that information directly to your brain. When you have chronic inflammation, whether from poor diet, lack of sleep, chronic stress, or other factors, your vagus nerve picks up on this and essentially puts your brain on high alert. Your brain receives these inflammatory signals and interprets them as a sign that something is wrong, triggering anxiety and worry even when there's no external threat. This is why so many people with anxiety also struggle with digestive issues, sleep problems, and other seemingly unrelated health concerns. It's not a coincidence. It's all connected through the vagus nerve. Your gut inflammation is talking to your brain through vagal pathways. Your disrupted sleep is affecting your vagal tone, and your poor vagal tone is making it harder to get quality sleep. It's a vicious cycle that feeds on itself, getting stronger over time if left unaddressed. But here's the remarkable thing about the vagus nerve. It's incredibly adaptable. Unlike some aspects of your nervous system that are relatively fixed, vagal tone can be improved through specific practices and lifestyle changes. This means that chronic anxiety, even anxiety that has persisted for years, isn't necessarily a permanent condition. It might be a sign that your vagus nerve needs rehabilitation, like physical therapy for your nervous system. The concept of vagal tone refers to the strength and efficiency of your vagus nerve's function. People with high vagal tone tend to be more resilient to stress, recover more quickly from challenging situations, have better emotional regulation, and generally feel more at ease in their bodies. People with low vagal tone are more susceptible to anxiety, depression, digestive issues, and have a harder time bouncing back from stress. Think of vagal tone like physical fitness, just as you can improve your cardiovascular fitness through regular exercise. You can improve your vagal tone through specific practices that stimulate and strengthen the vagus nerve. And just like physical fitness, vagal tone responds to consistent practice over time rather than quick fixes or one-time interventions. One of the most powerful ways to assess vagal tone is through heart rate variability, or HRV. This measures the subtle variations in the timing between your heartbeats. Counterintuitively, a more variable heart rate actually indicates a healthier, more resilient nervous system. When your vagus nerve is functioning well, it creates natural variations in your heart rate that correspond to your breathing patterns. Your heart rate speeds up slightly when you inhale and slows down when you exhale. People with anxiety often have very low heart rate variability, meaning their heart beats in a very rigid, inflexible pattern. This reflects a nervous system that's stuck in sympathetic activation without the balancing influence of healthy vagal function. But here's the encouraging news. HRV can be improved through specific breathing techniques, lifestyle changes, and vagus nerve stimulation practices. The breath is one of the most direct ways to influence your vagus nerve. Unlike your heart rate or digestion, which are largely automatic, breathing is something you can consciously control, and it has immediate effects on vagal tone. Slow, deep breathing, particularly when you extend your exhale longer than your inhale, directly stimulates the vagus nerve and activates your parasympathetic nervous system. This is why breathing techniques are so commonly recommended for anxiety. But most people don't understand the underlying mechanism. It's not just about relaxation or mindfulness. Specific breathing patterns literally change your nervous system state by stimulating vagal function. When you breathe slowly and deeply, you're essentially giving your vagus nerve a workout, strengthening its ability to activate your body's relaxation response. But breathing is just one piece of the puzzle. Your vagus nerve responds to a wide variety of inputs and can be strengthened through multiple pathways. Cold exposure, for instance, is a powerful vagal stimulator. When you expose your body to cold water or cold air, it initially triggers a stress response, but then your vagus nerve kicks in to help your body adapt and recover. Regular cold exposure, whether through cold showers, ice baths, or winter swimming, can significantly improve vagal tone over time. Singing, humming, and chanting also stimulate the vagus nerve because it innervates the muscles of your throat and vocal cords. This is why many people find singing to be naturally calming and mood-lifting. It's literally stimulating their parasympathetic nervous system. Gargling, laughing, and even yawning can have similar effects. The gut-vagus connection is particularly important for people with anxiety. Your gut contains its own nervous system, sometimes called the second brain, which communicates extensively with your actual brain through the vagus nerve. The health of your gut microbiome directly influences your vagal tone, and your vagal tone affects your gut health. This is why gut health and mental health are so closely connected. When your gut microbiome is out of balance, whether from poor diet, antibiotic use, chronic stress, or other factors, it can create inflammation and send distress signals to your brain through the vagus nerve. Your brain receives these signals and interprets them as anxiety, worry, or unease. This is one reason why people often describe anxiety as a gut feeling. There's actual physiological communication happening between your gut and your brain. Improving gut health through proper nutrition, probiotics, and reducing inflammatory foods can have profound effects on anxiety levels, but only if you understand the vagal connection. It's not just about digestion, It's about nervous system communication. Sleep is another crucial factor in vagal health. During deep sleep, your parasympathetic nervous system is supposed to be active, allowing your body to rest, repair, and restore. Poor sleep quality or insufficient sleep prevents this restorative process and keeps your nervous system stuck in sympathetic activation. This creates a vicious cycle where anxiety disrupts sleep and poor sleep worsens anxiety. But here's something most people don't realize: improving vagal tone can dramatically improve sleep quality, even without making any other changes to sleep hygiene. When your parasympathetic nervous system is functioning properly, it becomes much easier to fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. Social connection and relationships also play a crucial role in vagal health. The vagus nerve is intimately involved in what researchers call social engagement, your ability to connect with others, read social cues, and feel safe in social situations. People with poor vagal tone often struggle with social anxiety, feeling disconnected from others, or sensing threat in neutral social situations. This creates another vicious cycle. Anxiety makes social connection more difficult, but lack of social connection further weakens vagal tone. Understanding this connection can be incredibly liberating for people who struggle with social anxiety. It's not that you're antisocial or broken. Your nervous system may simply need support to feel safe in social situations. Here's what's particularly insidious about vagal dysfunction. It often develops gradually over years, so people don't realize what's happening. You might notice that you don't bounce back from stress as easily as you used to, or that you feel more anxious in situations that never bothered you before. You might start having digestive issues, sleep problems, or notice that you catch colds more frequently. These seem like separate, unrelated problems, but they're often all connected to declining vagal function. The modern lifestyle is particularly hard on the vagus nerve. Chronic stress keeps your sympathetic nervous system activated, preventing your parasympathetic system from doing its job. Processed foods create inflammation that interferes with vagal signaling. Lack of physical activity reduces overall nervous system resilience. Screen time, especially before bed, disrupts the natural rhythms that support vagal function. Social isolation reduces the interpersonal connections that help maintain healthy vagal tone. We've essentially created a perfect storm for vagal dysfunction, and then we wonder why anxiety disorders are at epidemic levels. We're treating the symptoms while ignoring the underlying nervous system dysfunction that's driving many of these problems. But recognizing the role of the vagus nerve in anxiety isn't about blame or adding another item to your self-improvement to-do list. It's about understanding that your body has incredible built-in mechanisms for healing and regulation. They just need the right support to function properly. The pharmaceutical approach to anxiety focuses on neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA, which can be helpful, but it often misses the bigger picture of nervous system dysfunction. Medications can provide symptom relief, which can be crucial, especially in severe cases, but they don't address the underlying vagal dysfunction that may be driving the anxiety in the first place. This is why some people find that anxiety medications help initially, but then seem to lose effectiveness over time, or why they experience a return of symptoms when trying to discontinue medication. The underlying nervous system imbalance hasn't been addressed. Understanding the vagus nerve opens up entirely new approaches to treating anxiety. Approaches that work with your body's natural healing mechanisms rather than just masking symptoms. These approaches tend to be more sustainable because they're addressing root causes rather than just managing symptoms. Vagus nerve stimulation doesn't require expensive equipment or complicated procedures. Many of the most effective techniques are simple, accessible practices that you can incorporate into daily life. The key is understanding which practices actually stimulate vagal function and then implementing them consistently. Progressive muscle relaxation, for instance, works. partly because it engages vagal pathways that help your body shift from tension to relaxation. Yoga combines breathing, movement, and mindfulness in ways that naturally support vagal function. Meditation, particularly loving-kindness meditation, has been shown to increase vagal tone and improve emotional regulation. Even simple practices, like taking a few deep breaths, gargling with water, or humming a song, can provide immediate vagal stimulation. The cumulative effect of these small practices throughout the day can gradually strengthen your nervous system's ability to self-regulate. What's particularly hopeful about this approach is that it empowers people to take an active role in their healing. Instead of feeling helpless about anxiety or dependent on external interventions, understanding the vagus nerve is people concrete, actionable steps they can take to support their nervous system health. This doesn't mean that therapy, medication, or other treatments aren't valuable. They absolutely can be. But adding a vagal rehabilitation component to anxiety treatment can make other interventions more effective and help people develop long-term resilience rather than just symptom management. The future of anxiety treatment likely lies in this more integrated approach, one that recognizes the complex interplay between mind and body, psychology and physiology, thoughts and nervous system function. As we develop better tools for measuring and supporting vagal health, we'll probably see anxiety treatment become more personalized and more effective. But you don't have to wait for the future to start supporting your vagus nerve. The tools and techniques are available now, and many of them are simple enough to start implementing immediately. The key is understanding that your anxiety might not be as mysterious or intractable as it seems. It might be your nervous system's way of asking for support. Your vagus nerve has been with you since birth, faithfully coordinating your body's responses, adapting to whatever life throws at you. If it's struggling now, it's not because it's broken. It's because it's been working over time in an environment that doesn't naturally support its function. With the right support, it can. Remember how to do what it was designed to do. Help you feel safe, calm, and resilient in your own body. The next time you feel that familiar surge of anxiety, that unexplained sense of dread, or that constant feeling of being on edge, remember that it might not be a psychological problem requiring a psychological solution. It might be your vagus nerve asking for attention, care, and rehabilitation. And unlike so many aspects of health that feel beyond our control, vagal tone is something you can actively influence, improve, and strengthen. This is why your anxiety won't go away with willpower alone, why positive thinking isn't enough, and why you shouldn't blame yourself for struggling with persistent anxiety. Your vagus nerve needs specific support to function properly in our modern world. But the remarkable thing is that once you understand this connection, you have a clear pathway forward, not just for managing anxiety, but for building genuine nervous system resilience that can serve you for the rest of your life.